Hey everyone, Cooper here, host of the fine podcast you're listening to. I just want to let you know that the episode you clicked on has a format that is very heavily inspired by a podcast called The Bookening. To be clear, our thoughts and opinions in this episode are our own, but the format is very similar to this podcast. I just wanted to give you a heads up and give credit where it is due. With that out of the way, enjoy the show. Coming up next, the Spring 2023 Booklist. Hey everyone, welcome back to BookNet. I'm, of course, your humble and eloquent host, Mr. Cooper Cobbs, and today I will be recording in audio the book list for 2023, the spring. That was very disjointed, but I think I got the message across. So, today, you're going to hear all the books that we're going to be doing from January through May. And I have to tell you, I'm really excited about this list. I've been saying it for many weeks now. So without further ado, let's see what we're going to be doing. So from January through March, we're going to be doing a series. And you may have heard of this series before. It's very famous. We're doing The Chronicles of Narnia by one Mr. Clive Staples Lewis. So at one point on Patreon, this is one of our goals. Like, I don't know how much money it was. Like, at this amount of money, we'll do The Chronicles of Narnia. And then we realized that, you know what? We're the bosses. And we can do whatever we want. And so we decided, you know what? Who cares about that goal? We're going to be doing Narnia. And so what a better way to kick off. There's no better way to kick off 2023 here on Booking It except by doing The Chronicles of Narnia. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm not going to tell you. I have dates here, but just in case, something goes awry, as sometimes it does, just know January through March, we're going to be doing a kind of prelude to Narnia, so kind of our expectations, our baggage, our general baggage on Narnia, kind of what our favorite books have been in the past, or at least favorites, or things we're interested in seeing if it hits us differently. We'll do a very broad prelude to Narnia. That'll be next week. Then after that, we'll go through each book by book. Probably one book an episode. We'll see what happens with that, though. And then at the end of March, at the end of the series, we'll do a kind of looking back. We've done a couple times before to say, okay, we finished this series. Now let's go back. And it's kind of it'll kind of bookend with the prelude. It'll be okay, let's look at what we did, the prelude, our favorite books, what we thought, and let's talk about those in this episode. So that'll be a 9-episode series. And like I said, January through March is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about that. So that's our big series in the spring. And then we have a couple of other episodes that'll lead us into the summer. So the first one that we're going to be doing, which I've been really excited to do for a long time on the podcast. I want to do it for a couple months now. The Phantom Tollbooth. This was one that all of us had to read for our school a couple years ago, and it's one that, it's a lot of people's favorite book. I'll just say it like that. A lot of people, when they were kids, this book was like their gateway into reading. And so for the longest time, I've always said, I'm not sure I love the Phantom Tollbooth, but I respect it a lot. And so I'm interested to see, especially with the lens of doing the podcast, going back and reading it and just seeing what's there and seeing how it goes and things like that. So I'm really excited to do that one and kind of go back, revisit a book in a sense, and see what it has to give us in discussion and merit, literary merit. And just overall, I think it's one that most people have read, have interacted with, and I'm glad that we're finally able to do it on the podcast to interact with it as well and publish our discussion on it. So that's in the first week of April, most likely. And then we have another April episode. A week after that, Keeper of the Lost Cities, Book 1. So here's the deal. For the longest time, Isaiah has been a fan of Keeper of the Lost Cities. This, for those of you who don't know, it's like this fantasy series. And then he got Tanner hooked on it, and Tanner keeps telling me that basically he compares it to like sugar. It's like, I know it's crap, but I'm kind of hooked now, and I can't go back. and he was telling me how the, I don't know, 11th book just came out or whatever, and he pre-ordered it and read it in a day, and it was terrible, but he couldn't stop. Anyway, I don't know what's going on with this, but for some reason, it's on here, and we're only doing the first book, but hopefully, I can just read it, admit that it's terrible, and then just leave it at that. So that's what we're doing. I don't know why we're doing that, except because I was running out of books to put here that we could read in time, and thought it'd be kind of fun to do I don't know, where I am on my own. Kind of I turned into this. It wasn't meant to, but a kind of Ember's End, where I am on my own, and then Isaiah and Tanner over there. I mean, Tanner might be kind of more in the middle, I guess, on this one. But anyway, that'll be fun. That'll be fun, at least for you guys. Probably not for me, but that'll be fun. Episode 97 is an interesting one. Following Keeper of the Lost Cities, last episode of April. We're doing a Brandon Sanderson episode. So last year, if you recall, in May, we did a Indy Wilson episode. And that was a really fun episode. It's also a really popular episode, by the way. And it was a lot of fun for everybody. So I thought, let's do another one. Let's do another one with one Mr. Brandon Sanderson. So he's obviously, if you don't know, he's probably the biggest like fantasy author who's publishing books yearly, in a sense. He's really big. He's publishing a lot of fantasy novels. I've read a couple of his books. I don't think Isaiah or Tanner has, but they're gonna read one or two for further discussion. And I think it'll be interesting to, again, interact with an influential author, a guy who's really popular and influential today, especially in the fantasy genre, which, as you know, is one of our favorites. So I think that'll be fun to do and talk about kind of an author and talk about, what they're about, and not just a book, but their entire oeuvre, in a sense, and our experiences with that. So that'll be a lot of fun as well. And then in May, our first episode in May, we have some written by some guy I never heard of called Shakespeare. I think Hamlet. Sounds like an omelet. Hamlet. We're doing Hamlet in May, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. We this entire year have been reading Shakespeare for our homeschool co-op English class, you could say, and Hamlet is the last one that we're doing, and so that's gonna be a lot of fun to talk about. Some would say the crowning achievement of the English language and the written English language, the crowning achievement of all English literature. And so that'll be a lot of fun to discuss. We'll have seen a production of it, and maybe we'll see a movie production of it as well. But that's going to be a ton of fun to talk about. Hamlet, I'm really excited to read it. I mean, obviously, just anytime someone says Hamlet, you're just thinking, okay, that's the big thing, that's the big play. And yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about, interact with the immortal bard, as he is so called, and I'm really excited to talk about Hamlet. And then in May, we have another episode of May, Fahrenheit 451. So last year, we tried to read Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. That didn't really work out, so we read Telltale Heart instead. Ended up being a solo episode, but we're coming back to Ray Bradbury in the spring, and we're going to do Fahrenheit 451, which is one of the classic novels of dystopian fiction. It deals with, obviously, if you haven't heard, well, I've said it a couple times, obviously if you haven't heard, that makes no sense. If you haven't heard, it's about a futuristic dystopian society where they burn books. Books are illegal, and it's all about television. Ray Bradbury, a lot of his stuff, fiction is like that, of the fears of technology and what technology is going to do to our civilization. So it's going to be a really fun book to talk about. It's one written earlier on, and I've read it before, and it's not as good as Something Wicked This Way Comes. It's not as well written as that or some of his short stories, but it's influential, it's big, and it's good. So I'm really excited to talk about that, get some Ray Bradbury out there. And then our last episode of the year, at least of this semester, is the last week of May, and I can't confirm this is a thing yet. This episode will be our 100th episode, if all of the episodes that I've listed out come to pass, which Lord willing they do. Fahrenheit 451 would be episode 99. Counting this episode, counting the prelude, counting Narnia, counting the looking back episode, and then Phantom Tollbooth, Keeper of the Lost Cities, Sanderson episode, and Hamlet. And Fahrenheit 451. That's 99 episodes that we've done. And so for the 100th episode, I thought it would be just a great idea. And again, like I said, I can't confirm because this hasn't been, established yet. But it may or may not involve a wizard duel, or a duel of words defending wizards. If you recall, our very first episode, me and Matthew engaged in a debate over Gandalf and Dumbledore, and I thought that it would be awesome for our 100th episode if we did an actual debate, Gandalf versus Dumbledore, with me and Tanner on the Gandalf side and Isaiah and Matthew on the Dumbledore side, and we'd have evidence and we'd speak, and then we've had cross-examination, and we'll figure out how it works. And again, Matthew hasn't confirmed to be able to do this. As you guys know, he's been pretty busy and hasn't been able to be on the podcast, but I'm hoping that he'll agree to do this one episode for us, and it'll be a lot of fun. So don't get your hopes up, because like I said, very well couldn't happen. But at the very least, we'll have some sort of special episode for episode number 100, and I'm hoping that it's going to be Gandalf versus Dumbledore, Dawn of Justice. So that's it. That's our book list for the spring semester. We'll be hitting 100 episodes by the end of May. Make sure you check out the screening as well, our movie podcast that we have, and I'll be doing an episode something like this, releasing the movie list that we're going to be doing, and there's a lot of fun things that we've got over there. We've been doing an episode once a month, and so that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to talk about all these books that we have here with the guys, especially Narnia. I'm really excited to get back to that. And thank you guys so much just for listening, for continuing to listen all these years. Like, this is 2.5 years that we've been doing this podcast to this point, and we've had an awesome 2022, by the way. The most successful year ever that we've had in terms of downloads, in terms of listener support and things like that. So I just want to say thank you from all of us here at the 412 Podcasting Network. Thank you so much for continued listenership, support, and here's to a happy 2023 of Booking It. We'll see you then, but until then, keep on booking it.